So, Kudzu got an update, and its Nintendo Switch port is now officially out. If you saw my video when the game was first released to backers, you'll know I felt the game was a little rough around the edges, but it still left a positive impression on me. I praised its music, graphics, and level design, but criticized the amount of technical issues and handful of oversights. I'm proud to say that a lot of that is fixed, but not everything. To be fair, I know a lot of these issues cannot be fixed without a drastic amount of work since the bulk of them stem from the version of GB Studio it was made in. I also know the game's developer Chris saw my video pretty late, so I wasn't really expecting most of what I talked about to be fixed because I don't think he was aware of all of them. And upon further inspection, I've noticed some of them don't actually matter. One of the big ones I brought up was the glitch when fighting one of the bosses where you can get his post-fight text box to repeat, causing it to skip another one that says a gate has opened. When I first played, I didn't thoroughly test this to see if it was actually game-breaking. The issue is still present in this update, but it appears it never mattered in the first place. I triggered it on purpose and rushed to the area the skipped text box refers to, and the gate opened like normal. So yeah, the issue is still here, but it doesn't do anything, so who cares? This Kudzu bug also still can't talk, but there's lots of things that have been fixed, and I think it improves the game a huge amount. One of my biggest criticisms was the pokeweed monster fights. They were really easy to cheese before, and now they're actually hard and I really like them. There's a few issues, but they feel like a real challenge now. These are vastly more enjoyable than they were before, and it's nice to see these guys fully realized. The other major fix I saw is the infinite goats problem has been solved. You get different rewards for finding these guys, and the final one is an overpowered weapon that makes a cakewalk out of all the enemies. There was a single goat in the game that infinitely respawned, so it was possible to get that weapon early. This caused the intended design of some of the endgame areas to fall apart. Well, he doesn't respawn now, meaning you have to go through these areas properly, and those were a lot of fun too. I really can't stress how much of a glow up the game got just from these two fixes. I also really enjoyed this second playthrough in general. In fact, I actually forgot to grab the final weapon upgrade, so the end boss was a genuine challenge I really enjoyed. Oh, I also got to see the normal ending this time, which was a treat. I accidentally locked myself out of it last time. I'm not sure if the game will get another update, but everything that's left doesn't matter or can't be fixed, so I feel confident giving it a hearty recommendation in the state it's in. So, with all that said, how can you guys play this right now? Well, there's the physical release on MegaCat's site for way the hell too much, and then there's the previously mentioned Switch release for $5. Yeah, that's it. I'm going to be honest, I figured just the ROM was never going to go up for sale once MegaCat got involved. From what I've seen, none of their games have standalone ROM releases, and I'm pretty sure they legally own all the publishing rights to Kudzu now. I feel like some people will make a stink about that, and normally I'd be on that train too because I absolutely hate this practice. But to be honest, the Switch release is so cheap, I don't care, and I honestly feel like this might come to Steam in the future, so it should be pretty widely available. Situation's not perfect, but this works. With that, I'd like to talk about the Switch release. You've been seeing footage of it throughout this video. It's worth noting that little snips were captured using the Switch's internal capture function, so the frame rate and quality might seem a bit off sometimes. This is what the Switch version looks like when hooked up to my capture rig. Sorry I had to rush a little bit. I've got some IRL stuff coming up and I didn't have tons of time for sit-down capture. When I was writing the script for the original video, a lot of my disappointment came from me feeling that the $15 I paid for my copy was a little too much to ask for the state I got the game in. But it also came with a really excellent digital manual and a copy of the soundtrack, and I eventually realized the game wasn't just its flaws. I originally didn't plan to cover the Switch version since I knew I'd have to pay for it again, but for $5 I don't mind seeing what's on offer, which is surprisingly more than I was expecting, but still kind of the bare minimum. And that's okay, it's exactly what you need and that price point is pretty sweet. For $5 you get the updated version of the game packaged in a Game Boy emulator. You get some border options, which thank God they have a no border option. I'm not the biggest fan of these usually, but there's nothing I hate more than not including an option to turn it off. Looking at you, Dracula X Chronicles. Thank you so much for including this. These borders do look pretty nice though. Admittedly, I quite like this CRT TV one. You get access to a digital version of the manual, which is pretty useful, and a few of the pages have been altered to match the Switch release. The ROM hasn't though, so it'll still say press start and select, which are mapped to plus and minus. Which, hey, by the way, just a hot tip for any devs out there, if you're releasing a compilation of games from the Game Boy line, when you give them modern console releases, you should give an option that also maps start and select to the top and left face buttons. It's one of those things the Pokemon games innovated on when they made the jump to DS, and it feels really natural. I have all of my 2-button system emulators mapped this way, and it's how I played through Kudzu on my Retroid Pocket 2S. Anyways, the only other thing you get is a reset option, which just resets the ROM in case you run into any issues, which you will, because the game still has crashing problems. Usually you only lose a few minutes, but at one point I kept getting these really bad ones that would persist through a reset. So I had to completely close the program out to the home menu and restart. To be clear, I don't have footage of me actually closing and resetting because of the way the Switch's internal capture function works. So this footage you're seeing right here is a reproduction. The game also displays in this pretty green palette. It looks a lot better than the olive one I had that's more hardware authentic. And I also noticed sometimes the sound emulation seems off, like it's garbled a bit, but nothing major, no emulator is perfect. Overall, I think the Switch release of Kudzu is a must-own. Kudzu was a good game already, but for just $5 with improvements and its fantastic manual, it's a steal. I'm glad it got its little update. I was honestly kind of worried about this game, and I'm glad to see things worked out in the end. If you like this video, leave me one below. If you've got anything to say, let it fly in the comments. And if you subscribe, you can even be here for next time.